Well, hello and welcome to this co-taught lesson provided by Cobblestone Collective. We are so happy to have you join us this morning. I am Felisa Ford. I am joining you from Atlanta, Georgia, USA from Treaty Session 116. And I have with me my co-partner.
Yes, as I like to start saying these esteemed colleagues, right? So as we're esteemed colleagues in the session today, hello everyone, welcome. If I'm familiar to some of you, that is awesome. I'm sure you are all virtually familiar to me. My name is Damien, and I am here presenting from the Toronto region up in Canada on the Treaty 13A, and I'm so excited for what we have planned for you today. So let's get on with it, right?
All right. So before we get started, we want to give a land acknowledgement. And I acknowledge that I am participating in this workshop today from the traditional territory of the local Muskogee and Creek people, from whose beautiful land I am able to teach, learn, and explore, and to be able to share my passion with you. And because we are a global community learning today, it's very likely that you are participating and learning from near traditional territorial land of one of the many indigenous groups across the globe. So I invite you to learn more about the land you are on by visiting nativeland.ca. And so as we get started today, we want to make sure that everyone understands what's going on, but we want to start out by thanking Minecraft Education Edition for supporting this awesome session today. You are in for a treat, students. We cannot wait to share this with you. We're so excited. And on that note, we have a special guest from Minecraft. Sarah, take it over.
Thank you, Felisa and Damien. Hi, everyone. It's great to meet you. My name is Sarah Cornish. I am the marketing manager for Minecraft Education. I live here in Seattle, where it's very cloudy and rainy today. I'm looking out onto beautiful birch trees and a yard covered in leaves that I probably should be raking. It's great to see you all. Behind me, I have a Minecraft river biome, if you're familiar with the game. I love to have Minecraft nature biomes as my team's background to make me feel like I'm actually outside instead of sitting at my computer. So it's wonderful to be here. We're so excited to introduce you to our special guest today and a really, really special piece of content, our Climate Futures lessons. Minecraft as a studio has been committing ourselves to sustainability and climate solutions through a lot of the work we're doing in Minecraft education. So we've released some great lessons and learning content for students of all ages around the world, where you can explore cities in Minecraft, understand biodiversity, build bee colonies, learn about waste management, and you'll see some of these amazing examples today from our guests. So just wanted to say hello. Thank you so much for being here and participating. We're excited to hopefully inspire you to continue using Minecraft Education Edition in your classrooms. I'm sure the students out there can help their teachers get started, but our team is also here if you need anything. We've got lots of resources available on our website and of course in the game. So thanks again for playing and great to meet you all. Let's have some fun.
Thank you, Sarah. And so we will definitely continue with that as we move on through our lesson. We want to now say a special thank you to Dr. Rosie Oakes, who will be joining us later on in this session. So Dr. Oakes, would you like to just do a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi everybody. Thank you for having me. My name's Rosie Oakes and I am a climate scientist from the Met Office, and I'll be telling you a little bit more about what I do later on in the session.
Thank you so much, Dr. Oakes. And so our plan for today, students, is first, you've already met Dr. Oakes, you met Ms. Cornish from the Minecraft team. But you're going to get to ask Dr. Oakes some questions about what she does and how it impacts climate and climate futures. You're going to get to explore the farm and climate futures, and we're so excited about that. And then the last thing that you're going to do is to be able to complete the Climate Futures Build Challenge. So you have a lot of great things in store for you, but we're going to continue. Before we get started, there are just a few things we want to make sure you know how to communicate with us. One thing we want to remind you is that you can see and hear us, but we can't hear or see you, but that doesn't stop us from interacting and communicating with you. So the way we're going to do that is you're going to get a link to a form, and this link is on the screen. So in a browser, you'll be able to answer any questions that we provide. And just listen out, we may even shout out your class or your name. So we can't wait to see these awesome answers. And Damien will be shouting out classrooms, teachers, and students, and those wonderful answers that you provide us. So let's give it a try. For our first question, we want to hear from you on this. In order to survive, we know that we all must eat. So where does our food come from? You can answer this question in the link. So put this answer in the form that we provide for you. And we'll also make sure that your teacher gets a copy of this form to help you to be able to provide your answer as well.
Yeah, so at thecc.page/MEE, which by the way stands for Minecraft Education Edition, but we are so excited to hear from you. I'd love to know all of your favorite foods, where that food can come from. You know, I am thinking now about maybe one of my favorite foods. And I think I'm Polish, right? So I'm gonna say that one of my favorite foods is this. It's basically a schnitzel, right? But you put in, you mix it in with these other stuff. So where does that come from, right? I guess if I'm thinking about it, schnitzel I think it's pork, so it comes from pigs. And that's a pretty those are animals that are pretty well situated in that country. But Felicia, how about yourself?
So Damien, one of my favorite foods, and I have to say this, is steak. I love steak. Whether it's cattle grown in the United States or it could be cattle grown in South America, we have food that we love from all parts of the world. And then, Damien, I also love pizza. And I know that there are a lot of different vegetables that are on pizza, from the tomatoes that are put on there. Those could be grown locally or somewhere in the US or somewhere in another country. So we're all connected by the foods that we love to eat, and even our favorite foods. So do we have any, let's see what our students are saying. What is something that they love to eat?
Absolutely. Well, so they're saying where our food generally comes from. We've got Cole mentioning it comes from plants and animals. Absolutely. We've got Marina saying pigs, sheep, wheat, cows, and chicken. Those are all Minecraft, actually, by the way. So I like the association there. Kylie, I believe, said animals, fruits, vegetables. Noshik says grocery stores. And yeah, we have a ton of answers here. Harry says from farms and seeds and all these great places. So we have so many foods here. Crosby agrees with me, Felisa. Loves steak. So yes. No, we've got some fans over here. But yeah, let's keep on going.
Absolutely.
I love it.
All right, so now we are in for a treat. Let's hear from Dr. Rosie Oakes, who is a senior climate scientist from the Met Office. Dr. Oakes, are you ready to take it away?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thanks, Felisa. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to you before you go and explore the Minecraft world. As Felisa says, I work at the Met Office, which is in the UK, and I'm a climate scientist. So I think about climate all day, every day. So I'm going to tell you a bit about my job and a bit about what we do. So this is me on a warmer day than today. It's dark here now. And I live in Exeter, so that's where this arrow is pointing to. So it's in the UK, it's in the southwest of the UK, and we're really close to the beach, which I absolutely love. I love going outside and walking and exploring around. So if we go to the next slide, we can see that I work all over the world, and the aim of what I do is to help people from everywhere prepare for climate change. So the Met Office is really well known for doing weather forecasts, but we also think about climate. So that's these longer timescales, trying to think about what the world will look like in 2050 or 2100. And we run these big climate models and they churn out loads and loads and loads of numbers, but I don't want to send people just a bunch of numbers because nobody knows what to do with that. So my job is to go and talk to people in these different areas and try and work out what challenges they're facing and what data I can give them to help them with those problems. So you can see Felice's circled the areas I'm currently working, which include Africa, Nepal, and China. So lots of different places, lots of really interesting people. So when we're talking about climate, it's often confusing. What's the weather? What's the climate? So we're just going to get started by saying, what is weather? Do any of you know what weather is? How would you describe it? Now, if you could fill that in the form, so the form where you were before, thecc.page/mee, tell me, what is weather?
Yeah, and as we're waiting for excited students to type out their answers, I'm sure as fast as they can, I actually want to say we have Jeff joining in, who's also from the UK. So you have a neighbor that's just around the corner there, and I want to give a few shout outs just for Mr. Cho's class, Mr. Domenico's class. We're so happy and excited to have you all here. So thank you so much for joining us. We got some really great stuff here. Mr. Wigmore's class as well. But to answer your question for what is weather, we have AM stating that it is the temperature outside. Jazir said what they are, the clouds, the sun, the snow, what those elements or those concepts are doing at the moment. Brian said it is a state of the atmosphere, and Bronson just Mother Nature. And absolutely, right? I think these are all amazing questions. So we love to keep on hearing more. But yeah, back to you.
Yeah, those are really good answers. I think all of them together pretty much describe what weather is. So weather is what's happening outside your window at a specific time. So somebody said, maybe it's the clouds, it's the temperature, it's the state of the atmosphere. So it's what's going on outside your window. Now, outside my window, it's very dark right now, but when I cycled home, it was kind of cold and damp. So that's the weather here. But I know that Sarah told us the weather where she was. And I know Damien told us the weather earlier today. He's got snow, so it's crazy. So we've learned about what the weather is. So now what's climate? So we talk about climate, we talk about climate change, but what is climate? Do any of you know? I think we've got some really smart people in the audience today, actually. So I'm excited to hear your answers. So go back to that form and type in and tell me what you think climate is.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think we've got some really bright minds joining us today from all over the place. We have William, I don't know, Mrs. Williams' class in Victoria, British Columbia. Thank you so much for being here. We have Miss Howell's 3rd grade class as well, Miss Slack's grade 5-6, and Miss Kirkham's grade 2-3 virtual class. So many amazing people joining us from all over the place. And we're still getting a lot of people answering about weather. So that was a very great icebreaker, I would say. No pun intended, I suppose, for weather. But with climate, we have Santiago saying that climate is what's happening in an ecosystem. Tristan is when the temperature changes. Aisha, weather is there for a long time. Paisley says it is the atmosphere. And let's see, Jackson and Jackson, I think Charlotte and so many others are saying it's temperature, so essentially debating how hot or cold it can be.
Yeah, I think, again, we've got some really great people out there answering these questions. So it is temperature and rainfall, but it is over a long period of time. And I think somebody did say that, over a longer period of time. So the weather is what's happening right now, but the climate describes what happens where you live over a long period of time, 30 years. So I'm 32, so it's my whole life. That is climate. Crazy. So I sometimes find these hard to remember, which is a bit embarrassing if you're a climate scientist. So the one way that I remember it is, if you go to the next slide, weather is what you wear. So today is quite cold where I am, so I've got this nice woolly jumper on. But in the summer, it is hot. So in that picture from earlier, I had a t-shirt on. I can't even imagine that now. It's so chilly. And you would hope today that Damien would be wearing some snow boots and a big coat because it's snowing where he is. So that's the weather, what you're wearing right now. And then the climate is what you've got in your wardrobe. So even though I'm wearing a woolly jumper right now, I've got other things in my wardrobe for colder days and for warmer days. So your wardrobe, that's what you're wearing over a longer period of time. So that's more similar to climate. So hopefully that helps you remember what's weather and what's climate. So the climate varies around the world, which we've talked a little bit about today, and it's great that we've got so many of you joining from all over the world. So where I live in the southwest of the UK, it's in orange over here. You can see that we have mild winters and warm summers. But where Damien is, he's in the very cold region of this map on the right-hand side. And I think we said Felicia's in the humid section, which is good.
Yes.
She's not stuck in the snow.
Hotlanta.
Hotlanta, that's what they call it. And Sarah is over on the coast over there. Oh, that's not even labeled. It's not a very good map. But in the cold area, but on the coast. So we're all living in different climates, and that is affecting what we have in our wardrobe, which we've talked about. But it also influences how you live your life and what crops you plant, which is really important for what we're talking about today. So when we think about climate, now people talk about climate change, and that's because humans are emitting carbon into the atmosphere, and that's causing the temperature of the Earth to warm up, and that's changing our climate. So how do you think climate change is going to affect people around the world? So think about how people live now, and then think about what do you think will happen if the climate changes? So we want to hear from you again. So get back to that form at the cc.page/mee and think about how will climate change affect people around the world.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question to ask for all of our students, right? Because ultimately, this is your future, right? Like Dr. Oakes said that climate takes 30 years, right? I personally haven't reached that full climate, I guess, circle, and many of you, this will eventually come back, and it's great to think about what we're hoping our climate to be for ourselves and for the next generations, right? We have some great answers starting to come in, and again, apologies if I'm mispronouncing your names. I promise it's by accident. It just there's so many names, and I want to make sure everyone tries to get as many shout outs as possible. We got Eamon saying global warming and pollution, and Paisley mentioning how it can change how people live, right? And that's true, right? We have let's see, Connor, it can affect certain species such as polar bears, absolutely. Drew is mentioning certain environmental effects like forest fires or maybe tornadoes and all these great things. So yeah, we have a lot of answers coming through, a lot of educated answers. And yeah, I think we can move on.
Wow, yeah, there's a lot of good. I think they might take my job at this rate. They seem to know exactly what's going on. So you're right, the climate will change. It will change how we live. It will change how frequent natural hazards occur, and it will change how people live their lives. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about some work that we're doing in China as part of my group, just to give you an idea about what I do in my day-to-day job. So the reason we're talking about China is the Met Office works with people from all over the world. And in China, we're really focused on farming, and specifically China grows 1/3 of the world's maize, or corn, if you've seen corn on the cob. So you can see the picture here of the maize fields. So 1/3 of this is grown in China. And if you go to the next slide, Felicia, you can see this is a map of China, and it's color coded by how much maize they grow. So the darker color is more maize. So 1/3 of this maize is grown right up in that northeast, the top right corner of the map. That's where 1/3 of the maize is grown in China. So we work with people in China to make sure that we can tell when this maize might be threatened by climate change. Because if you just click one more bullet point, you can see that because China grows so much of the world's maize, if that crop fails, it will have big implications both for people in China and for people all over the world because they just grow so much of it. So maize, like a lot of plants, needs warmth to grow. So it needs a certain amount of rain and a certain temperature. But if it's too hot or there's not enough water, the farmers don't get as much harvest as usual. So some of their crops might die, or the stuff that they grow might be smaller. And so they don't make as much profit and they can't feed as many people with the maize. So if you go one more, so we have found with some studies that we've done at the Met Office that climate change is projected to make these hot, dry years more common, which is a bit worrying if you're a maize farmer in China, because if that's what you grow, and sometimes you get these years where your crop doesn't do very well, and these are going to happen more often, you probably want to do something about that. So yeah, this is where my team comes in. This is what we do. So in order to understand whether there's going to be more droughts in the future, we try and look at the big climate system. So the Earth operates as a big system, and changes in one area can affect changes in another area. So we work with other climate scientists at the Met Office to try and work out, okay, if it's warmer in this part of the world, maybe that causes more droughts in China. So first we try and work out what's going on. And then the next thing we do is we use this to predict when there are going to be more droughts. So I've done an example plot here with time on the x-axis and chance of drought on the y-axis. And you can see, using these models, we can predict when there's more likely to be a drought in that area of China. So that's all very well, but knowing this information is not good enough. We have to take that next step and make sure we talk to the farmers in China to help them prepare for drought in the future. Because if we know climate science, what's going on, but we don't tell anyone about it, that information isn't very useful. So this is the next question for you. Let's see if you really can take my job. I'll have to really panic then. What do you think farmers can do to prepare if they know there might be a drought? So if you were a farmer in China and I call you up and I said, oh, I think this year there might be a drought, what do you think you could do? So type your answers in on the thecc.page/mee. Let's see what you think. Maybe I should write some ideas down. Actually, I'll get my pen and paper ready.
Yeah, I think you should definitely get ready, because we've got some really bright minds here. Yeah, and as we're waiting, for a few answers coming in, I do want to shout out 3 people: Aubrey, Alice, Aparajita, and so many more of you. I'm seeing some really educated answers here, especially about climate change and some of the other questions we were asking. So there is some really smart people in these in these classes joining us today. But we have Kaden and Reina and Sanjeev and Cole. All of you are saying, we can store and collect water ahead of time, right? So we can go ahead and do that. Nicholas is mentioning to harvest everything. So is Thivian or Tivian. We also have Max saying to stock up, create kind of these storage abilities, and Janika. We've got Madame Carmenel's class to try to figure out a way to water the plants a little bit more and make sure that they're still getting enough water if there is a potential drought. So lots of great things over here. Oh, and one more. Emma is saying here, managing soils for maximum water retention capacity, contour planting, weed and pest management and control. So these are, all of you are pretty smart. I would have never come up with this.
Wow. Yeah, there's some really good ideas there. Yeah, I love that one about soil management. I haven't even written that one down. So yeah, I think there's some really good ideas. So people are saying if there's not going to be any water coming from rain, maybe you should store water ahead of time. That's a really good idea. And this is called irrigation on a bigger scale. That's what it's known as. And so that's just providing water to plants in a different way from rain. So sometimes it's through sprinkler systems, and sometimes it's, like you say, storing water somewhere on the farm so you can go out and water your crops later on. Some people said harvest early. That's a really good idea. I've got plant at a different time of the year, but if the drought is going to hit at a certain time of the season and you can get all your growing done before then that's something that the farmers could do. And the other thing I've put down is grow a different crop. So if they grow maize normally, maybe they could grow a crop which is less sensitive to drought. So maybe soy or something else which would be less sensitive to this drought. But there can be problems with that. I mean, if they have a farm machine that's only good for planting maize, it can be tricky to just switch to something else. So there's all sorts of conversations that we have with the farmers to try and help them prepare for climate change and make sure that their crops don't fail and they can still feed their families and make money from their farming. So yeah, thanks for all your ideas. So the next thing I'm just going to tell you about, I don't think we have time for another question because we want to get to the Minecraft, but I really do think the answers we've had today, there are some brilliant scientists out there. And so if you want to do my job, these are some of the skills you need. So we've talked a lot today about what's weather and what's climate, and obviously that's the science side of things. But in my job, you have to also go and talk to people in different countries. So maybe you like chatting, maybe you really like listening, maybe you're good at listening to other people, maybe you're good at languages, and so you could go to China and talk to someone in Mandarin. I'm not great at Mandarin yet, but I'm really trying to learn. And also artistic. If you're really good at painting future climate, maybe that's an easier way to communicate with people if you're working in different countries. Let's say if you're going to Nepal, like one of my projects, maybe you would paint with them and then you could talk about what the future climate would look like. So if you have any of these skills, I think you'd be really good at doing my job. And I think you've already proved that you'd be very good at doing my job. So if it's something you're interested in, you can have a career in climate change and helping people get ready for the future. And that's probably quite a good transition, actually. Yeah, so we do need a lot of brilliant brains like yours. And I think we're going to see how creative you are and how much you learn when you explore the Minecraft Education Edition now. And I think Damien's going to walk you through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. I mean, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask them away. And maybe if we have time, we can go back and look at it. But what I love most, as I'm going to go and start sharing my screen here, but what I love most, Dr. Oakes, that you mentioned, or in that slide that showed kind of what skills some of our students might need to either leverage or use, or if they already have it, is that most of those are actually what we call soft skills, or social and emotional skills, right? And those are pretty powerful because, you know, the hard skills, which Dr. Oakes, like you mentioned, it was learning the science, learning the weather, the climate. That anyone can work on that, but these soft skills are amazing, and more. And you know, I think it's great to have this. So thank you, thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So we're going to do two parts today. We're going to open up the climate futures world. We're going to explore and walk through that, and I'll tell you exactly how we can accomplish that, and then we're going to build. So I can't wait. To be honest, I love Minecraft. I love playing with all of you. So I think we should just dive in. So if you're already on this page, that is great. If you're still logging in, that is totally okay too. Just remember, we're using your school credentials for Minecraft Education Edition. So once we're in, we're going to go ahead and click play, and we're going to navigate over to this menu. So we have a few different options, but I want to take our attention over to the one on the right over here, so the View Library. And when I click on View Library, we get a few more different options here. And for today, I'd like everyone to navigate over to the top left for subject kits. And we're going to click that. And now we have all these great and phenomenal lesson plans that you can always dive into at a different time. But the one that we're going to be trying out today is over at the very, very bottom. So we need to scroll down to the very bottom, and there should be a little picture here with some windmills. It's under climate and sustainability. So we're going to select that, climate and sustainability, and we're going to look for this, climate futures, the farm. So this is what we're going to be working on today. So once you find it, you can select it. I know it's a lot of clicking, but I promise once we're in, we're going to have fun. We're going to be able to document and do all these great things. So once we're in here, all we need to do is create the world. So I'm going to create my world right now. And if some of you have maybe a faster computer than me, that is great. I want you to just pause. If you load in before me, we're going to wait for everybody to catch up so we can all do this together. And then we're going to walk through the beginning of the world just a little bit. So we're going to walk through together. We're going to be able to explore and have some fun. And in the meantime, as we're waiting, maybe we can go back to if you had any questions for Dr. Oakes over here. I'm just going to look for anything, any answers that we have. But I just want to shout out also the grade 5-6 Brampton class for your amazing participation. That is awesome. Great to see a neighbor around here. And we have Avni, so you have a lot of fans. Dr. Oakes, you have a ton of fans in here. So they loved everything that you mentioned. So hopefully that brightened your day a little bit. Okay, so now that we're in, we may notice that we don't want to walk through that sparkly gate yet, but we are in this campsite here. So once we're loaded, we are going to essentially walk over to Emily, and we're going to, I'm going to right click on her. So depending if you're on a tablet, you might have to double click, or like kind of like a snake fan, right? If you're on Chromebooks as well. So really depending on the device that you're using, we're just going to select Emily, and we're going to listen. So welcome to Climate Futures Agriculture. Today we'll learn about how our agriculture affects climate change. And by the way, if you're reading at your own pace, you can just click next to move through. You'll have 3 areas to explore, which will show you the many different impacts of agriculture. You could either stay together or as a group, or go off and explore on your own. So I think we're all joining on our own, so we'll just be able to continue going next. Once we begin, you'll be given a camera, which you can use to take pictures of what you find, as well as a portfolio to store and view your pictures. Each area will have a yellow time rift. You'll need to enter to see an alternative view of the area. You must find all of the time rifts before you can move to the next area. So once everyone is ready and logged in, you can let me know by clicking on me again. Everyone will get a camera and you can start your adventure. Grab a book from behind me to see all the locations we need captured. All right, so if you are completed reading and you're following along with me and you're just as excited to start diving into Minecraft, we're going to go ahead and click ready. Looks like everyone's ready. Here's your camera. Don't forget to take a portfolio from the chest behind me. Great. So immediately we have 2 things in our inventory. We have the camera, which I'm automatically holding, and we have a portfolio. And so this portfolio is right now empty, but I'll show you what we can do with that in just a moment. And as Emily mentioned, let's grab a book from, we have so many books. This is great. I'm gonna take this one. And we're just going to grab one book. I don't think we need too many. And what this book does is that it gives us an idea of the pictures or areas we might want to photograph on our own and to explore. So we're looking for these areas specifically, right? And we can use that as a reference to plan ahead for our future builds. So once we're all ready to go, we're going to walk through the 2 rifts together. We'll do it all together. And then for the next 2 for this section, we'll kind of let you go on your own pace, but then we'll enter the next area as a group as well. So let's begin. And once we pass through that sparkly gate, we have 4 rifts we have to find. So we're going to follow this path. And this looks like an open area. So I guess we can start here. And oh, that tractor looks pretty familiar. Maybe if I open up my book, I can see that tractor over here. So that's a cool way that maybe I can go ahead and take a picture of that. And the way you would take a picture is you would select the camera in your inventory and you would aim kind of where you want to take that picture. And I'm going to hold down my right click and then release to take that photo. And there's my tractor right there, which is super cool. So I can take a few of them if I would like. And the way to view these photos is to go to that portfolio that was also placed in our inventory by Emily. So I'm going to right click as if I was placing down a block. I'm going to right click to open that. Look at that. I can see all of my great photos in there. So I really like this second one, right? Because, well, I cut off Emily a little bit, so I'm sure Emily wouldn't appreciate that. So maybe I can just click this delete button if I want to get rid of that photo. And this one was a little bit cropped as well, so I'll delete that. But let's move on. Let's see what's happening here. So I can talk with Emily. Farmers use fertilizers to help their crops grow bigger and faster. Fertilizers are added to the soil or sprayed onto the crops to provide all the nutrients they need for growth. Fertilizers are frequently used when the soil is poor. There are two main types of fertilizers, natural and chemical. And we can continue reading if we'd like. Ultimately, this is all for you. We can also look at these boards over here. So over each of these structures, we can read. So right now, this board is telling us that chemical fertilizers can cause problems when they run off into waterways, such as rivers and streams and oceans. And when this happens, the fertilizers upset or damage the delicate ecosystem in the water and can also kill some animals living there. So the production of the chemical fertilizers is responsible for increasing the amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. One reason why these fertilizers are being used more frequently is because they are considered to be more effective and efficient than natural fertilizers. They enable farmers to grow more crops at faster speeds, meaning that more food is produced, making it easier to find and cheaper to buy. So this board is telling us right now how the fertilizer that we're currently using, it can be a little bit problematic for our agriculture. So what we want to do is find a solution for that. And there's another tractor. I remember that. I'm just going to take a quick photo of that. You don't have to take a photo of everything. It's completely up to you. But I found this neat, also kind of sparkly thing, and that is the rift we're looking for. So if you don't know what you're looking for, if you didn't know what a rift was, this is it. It's almost like a fracture in time. So I'm going to walk right up to it. Don't be scared. And boom, look at that. I think a few of you actually used this answer when Dr. Oakes mentioned to get some sprinklers. This is awesome. So we stepped into the rift, and we have now discovered a more eco-friendly way to start watering our crops. So we have the sprinklers. We can read up on our sprinklers here. Maybe I'm going to save this to read at a later date. I really like these sprinklers. This is awesome. And look how the world changed physically around us. So there are different types of natural fertilizers: manure, lime, and potash, and we can read a little bit more about that if we'd like. But I think because we don't have too much time, and I want to make sure we all have enough time to build, we're going to move on. So once we are finished with our amazing level over here in our rift, the way we can move on is by finding that yellow kind of floating fracture in time, the rift, and then we can go ahead and walk right back into it. Oh, I took a photo by accident. Whoops. I'm gonna have to go ahead and delete that afterwards. But look at that. And so now it's returned back because we've learned how we can solve that and take forward. So now that we're back into our main world, I suppose we're going to see the continue sign, and let's move back through this path. So if you're following along with me, that is so great. I'm happy that I can be your tour guide briefly. As I mentioned, we'll do this next one together as well. We'll read up on some information, and then I'll let the next two of this area, I'll let everyone kind of go at their own pace. You can still follow along with what I'm doing. And then once you finish your fourth rift, I'll leave you with some more instructions. So we walk into this nice open pasture, I suppose, right? Or there's a lot of cows here, and if you're a Minecraft player, I'm sure we all love our cows. We got this really cool stable, or I think, or just I actually don't know what it's called to keep the cows in here, but we've got a nice little house with them. Oh, my little shrimp down there, look at that. So this is some great way that we can explore, and we can read up a little bit more here. So I can maybe take photo of that. I have to stand a little bit further away if I want to take a photo of a board. Otherwise, it will open it up like in this way. So if I want to take a photo for future reference, I can go ahead and take that picture. But let's see what this board has to say. Sometimes grazing land for our cows is created by deforestation. This can be a triple hit for our environment, as more CO2, or carbon dioxide, is released into the atmosphere from the trees, which are cut down and burned. Less vegetation is growing on that site, meaning less CO2, carbon dioxide, is being absorbed from the atmosphere. The grazing cows then release methane into the atmosphere as well. So I think we see a bit of a forest over there, so maybe that can imply that this used to be a forested area that we cut down, right? And then we have Emily here, so let's see what Emily has to say. Large-scale overgrazing, such as when animals eat too much grass within a pasture, can contribute to desertification. Desertification is when a once healthy area slowly gets converted into desert. By eating the plants down to the roots, overgrazing can cause plants to struggle to grow, leaving large open areas with no vegetation. It also leaves the soil exposed to the weather and erosion, making it harder for things to grow in the future. Wow. So I didn't know about that. I usually, when I'm driving on the highway and I see cows in farms beside the highway, I think great, but I never really thought about kind of the impact that that it takes to create this this kind of place for cows and cows themselves. So I found my next rift. It is over on this little hill over here, and I think I'm ready. I think I'm gonna brave it again. I was a little bit scared the first time, but let's go into this one and see what's happening. All right. Oh, and look at that. So we still have our cows here. We have a bit of a different building or structure now. So if we go and check out this structure, this looks a lot more natural. By the way, you're not in creative mode. So I'm used to playing in creative mode, so that's why I'm jumping around everywhere, because I'm expecting to fly. But we're all in survival. So our shroom cows here. That's great to see. We have some amazing. What it seems like we added some extra feeds there. So let's read up on the impact and the change that we just did through Emily and through the board, and then we can move on and we can learn some more. So by rotating a cow's grazing land with other farmland, we could reduce the effects of just desertification. It keeps the area from being overgrazed while reintroducing nutrients into the soil, which help plants grow. It also has the added benefit of producing more crops, since the cows aren't eating away all the vegetation, keeping the soil healthy. That is awesome. And if I talk to Emily, Emily also has something else to say. So how cattle produces methane, and that contributes to global warming. And also one way to we're talking about seaweed here is that when we are producing seaweed, it helps slow down methane production. I think that's really cool. When I read that, I think having seaweed is super great, and for our sushi lovers over there, it's also a great form of food. So this is awesome. I'm going to take a picture of this, and notice how there isn't one way for you to explore this world, right? If you read the board first, you would have then understood, oh, okay, we've planted here where the cows used to graze, but now we're just switching them over. They're over on this side. I went and I explored everything first, and then I went to read. So I was a little confused with the changes that happened. So there's no wrong way to explore this world, because this is entirely up to you with how you want to discover. All right, so I'm going to move forward. Let's do the next two on our own. We're going to exit the rift. And once you complete the fourth one, just pause and we'll do it together. I might see a few comments here and there, just because I'd like to mention, but I'll try to keep as radio silent as possible, just because I know some people enjoy working in silence. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna break myself. I know I'm terrible at keeping promises.
Yes, please.
I was not expecting this change. I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. And I'm just gonna say, I think this is a great photo to take. I love this area, and I believe these photos will help me in the future. So I'm going to take as many photos as possible, because I think this is a great place to take photos. Hint, hint. cough hint. Okay, so let's talk to them. I'll try to go silent again unless I get amazed. All right, so I have completed the area right here, and what that now allows me to do is walk through a very familiar shiny space. So just to recap what we learned about hydroponics, you know, all the hints and pictures that I think is great to have. And we also learned about transportation and the different forms of transportation we can do. So this is actually really illuminating. I'm learning a lot by walking through this. So we're in this next area now. We only have 2 more rifts to do for this area. So let's go ahead and maybe do one of them together. And the next one we can go through. So as I'm walking through here, I see what it looks like a factory, and it looks like a loading depot of sorts. We have some truck. By the way, I love building. I love these little hacks that they put. I think I know what behind it to get that consistent chimney or smoke, which is awesome to see. I love it. So I love seeing the creativity that was used to create this world. So large transport and packaging facilities can generate a lot of waste that ends up in our environment. Sometimes this waste ends up in lakes, rivers, and oceans. And so I guess we can see here the waste that's coming out and into this pond or this lake over here. And I guess these are like the garbage piles, the gravel and the different trash that is being emitted. So this is a pretty. Oh no, I took a photo again. If you find you're taking a lot of photos by accident, you can always switch to your portfolio, and instead you're going to like open up the book as instead. But so I went through the tunnel to move over to the back end of the factory here. When crops have been harvested, they are taken away for sale and often transported in large trucks or aircrafts. Transporting in this way contributes more to climate change because of the greenhouse gases the transport releases into our atmosphere. Can you think of a better way to transport food that will be kinder to our environment? What can your family do to help? And that's great. I love how it's asking us that question for us to maybe think about the way that we can reduce our carbon footprint before moving on. All right, let's go into this rift. Let's see what's waiting for us on the other side. And Emily is waiting. Emily is a fast. She's just running to all of these different rifts. That's awesome. So we go in here. Instead of growing crops for mass distribution, smaller local farms can cut down on the need for large packaging and distribution facilities. A smaller facility like this eliminates the need to package large amounts of food to be shipped far, far away. Because the food stays local, environmentally friendly packaging materials like paper can be used instead of things like plastic and styrofoam. It also reduces the energy cost by minimizing the amount of food packaged, stored, and distributed. Look at that. Our pond or river now has some phenomenal flora. It's got a nice ecosystem happening over there. If I go back and maybe see what Emily has to update, due to reduced energy needs, clean energy such as wind and solar can be used to power the facility. This has the added bonus of charging electric vehicles and then sending any extra energy generated back to the power grid, allowing other local homes and shops to benefit from the additional energy produced. So by the way, now that I read that, I just realized there's some nice windmills over here. These windmills might be familiar if we actually open up, or when we open up our world earlier. So this is awesome. So I'm going to take a picture of that windmill as well for the clean energy. And what seems like these are electric cars, phenomenal. Okay, so now that I think we've learned about how to reduce our footprint and local farms. I think in our answer, keep taking this photo. In our answers earlier, I think we had a farmers market as well, which is super cool. But once we enter the rift, we're back into our world and we're going to continue on our path. So you can still follow along with me. You can do this at your own preference or pace for this last one here. And then once you reach the moment that we need to go to the next area, just take a pause. We'll go through together. We'll do the exact same thing. We're going to go through a little bit. Right, so area complete. And how I did not plan that, I promise. All right, so we were talking about farmers markets, and where did that lead us? Right back to farmers markets, which is awesome. I was trying to interact with one of the vendors there because I think one of the points that was saying was we can provide more money back into our communities by facilitating these local smaller farms and farmers markets. So I was trying to get back to the community, but I guess they were closed for business today. They're wrapping up shop. We see here a meat processing facility. This is I again, like I said, I love the creative tools here used to build that. Okay, so now that we're moving on to our next section, we will need to pass through all of these delivery trucks that are idling, by the way, right? Because all of the smoke is coming out, so they're idling. They're being very harmful for our environment. Let's walk through the next sparkly area. So we have 3 rifts. And I believe these are the last 3. So we're going to walk through. We'll do this first one together, and then when you complete all the rifts, you will end up, and just because if you end up doing this a little bit before me, you will end up back at the campsite with Emily, where we started. Once you are there, just pause very briefly, because I will provide the instructions for what we're going to do next. And I would just be very sad if we can't do what I have planned later. So we'll just take a pause. If you make it a little bit before me to the campsite, I'll do my best to get there, and then we can move forward. So even though there might be a farm local to you that grows tomatoes in a climate-friendly way, this one you purchased from the supermarket was probably grown hundreds of miles away from you, and perhaps not even in a sustainable way. So how do you think all of this transporting of food impacts the climate? We're trying to be a little bit more thought-provoking there a bit. Large supermarkets receive deliveries of food anywhere from a few times a week to daily in some cases, and food can sometimes travel long distances to get to a supermarket. Hey, so let's go into this rift. Let's see what this rift has in store for us. Emily, yes. If you shop locally, you may be able to walk or cycle to the shops, which reduces the amount of greenhouse gases being released into the atmosphere. Can you think of other ways that shopping locally will help our environment? and considering where our food is grown, more foods that are in season, or experiment with growing your own vegetables. All of these can help reduce your food miles. That's a cool term. This means that your food hasn't traveled as far, so less fuel is used, which means less air pollution and less damage to our environment. So I really like that idea, is being mindful of what is in season and buying only during locally during that time. So if you happen to be in a place where watermelons are in season, and only buying watermelons during that seasonal time, maybe not at other moments, or mangoes and things like that, which I think is really great and impactful. So moving on, we're gonna go up these steps. It looks like we're inside a grocery store. I'm just kudos to the team for this creative, the creative stuff. Okay, so I'll leave the next two for us to do hybrid. I might say a few comments or things here and there, but otherwise let's complete these two riffs. Okay, so we're at the last rift. I think we can do this one together just to finish strong. And we learn, if you're reading some of the boards, we learned a little bit about reducing waste from food, from packaging, from plastics, and how that can harm our environment over in the grocery store. So I think that was super important. I very much agree with shopping locally. So the last thing we're going to talk about is a landfill. So there's some fire happening over there. It looks a little bit dangerous, but landfills are places made specifically to manage the large amounts of solid waste generated. What does it mean to make a landfill or what does not make it to a landfill usually finds its way to our oceans and collects in garbage patches, which are floating islands of garbage. The biggest of which is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is 3 times the size of France. Wow. And Emily, where does it all end up? About 91% of plastic isn't recycled. That means at best, it ends up in landfills, and at worst, polluting our oceans. Yeah, that's the garbage island is a very, very almost sad thing to see, right? How we have such a large mass of waste floating around. So, it's not dangerous anymore. This looks very pretty. We've got a swing set in the background. I like what happened here. Let's learn more. Okay, so Fresh Hills Park in New York City was once home to one of the world's largest landfills. Over the past 10 years, they have been converting it into a park that, when complete, will be the largest park in New York City, nearly 3 times larger than Central Park. Not only will it include recreational and educational areas, it will also house a 46-acre solar array, which will be used to power over 2,000 residential homes. Cool. Okay, so I think reducing the amount of waste we produce has the added benefit of allowing us to reclaim the land we dedicate to landfills. One popular way of doing this is converting the landfill into a park. That is amazing. I love seeing that, how we've converted these landfills into a park. I've also seen other ways that this has been done, such as like a golf course, which might not be the best example because I know they use a lot of fertilizer and I know they use a lot of things inside the maintenance, but the idea of still converting these landfills into a publicly used but clean space is definitely helpful. So I like how we made a park here for everybody. And I like this example that we can also add solar arrays, which are possible to build in Minecraft. All right, so we're going to go through that last riff area complete, and let us make our way back to the campsite to meet up with Emily once more. If you're already waiting for me at the campsite, thank you so much for being so patient. I just got really invested into this world, so I'm happy. I'm happy we made it all back together. Okay, so now that we're back at the campsite, we've walked through the little shiny arch over here. Let's go talk to Emily. Now that you've explored the area and learned about the many problems with agriculture, it's time to put it in perspective. Take this book and write about ways we could help address the problem. Use the pictures you took along the way to help illustrate your points. Come see me when you're done. So we can click that take book, and we have one more thing in our inventory of book and quill. So let's maybe take 2 minutes to list our favorite, the most favorite thing we found to reduce the negative climate impact from this entire world. So the 9 risks, the 9 examples that we went through, and hopefully some of the photos along the way. Let's reflect on our favorite one. So we're going to hold the book and quill in our hands, or in our inventory. And we're going to right click the same way as we did with the photo, same way as we did with the portfolio. And now we can reflect. So if I wanted to add a photo, I just need to click this pencil at the bottom of a specific page. And I can click this second option, I believe, this add photo. And now look at that, it takes from our portfolio. This is cool. So all the photos that we took, we can go through some of my blunders in there. That's okay. But I'm going to choose the actually, you know what? I was pretty impressed with the farmers market. So I think I'll take that. And I'm going to briefly write about about what I learned about the farmers market. Okay, so I've reflected. I've chosen my favorite part about this journey. I have a photo to look at that. If I wanted, I can add a caption as well to my photo. So how this vendor is selling honey, it seems like, which is really great with our bees. So I wrote a little reflection. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm going to sign it. Reducing, or let's just do farmers market. So now that we've hopefully signed our book, we're going to close it. We have now an unbreakable book. We're ready to go. Let's go back to Emily and let's say, are you all done? We'll need to wait till your entire group is complete. And I think our entire group will be complete. In the meantime, you can sign your book as we just did, and then we can even export it once we're done. So I am done. Looks like everyone is finished. We'll now teleport you to the build challenge. So we made it. We're here at the build challenge. So here we are. We'll have an opportunity to build a sustainable farm on top of a hospital. So we were able to go through all of this and learn some amazing, amazing tools and strategies and new things. Let's just click let's go and let's show you what this world looks like. So we're counting down to our teleport. Buckle in, hands and feet inside, and bodies and limbs, everything inside the ride at all times. Awesome. And so here we are. So let's talk with Emily. What do we have to do here? Now it's your opportunity to build a farm on top of the hospital rooftop that could feed the patients and staff. This could include things like fruits, vegetables, or even livestock. Okay, and that's our build challenge. So we're going to keep it very simple. Notice now, remember, I was looking for creative, but we were in survival the first time, so I could only walk. But now we're in creative mode. And what does that mean? Creative mode means that if I double click the spacebar or double jump, essentially, whatever device you're using, I can fly, which means I can build a little bit higher than usual. And I also have an unlimited inventory. So I'm going to click my inventory. If you don't know what that is, it is the letter E for me. You can also show your controls, and it should list it over there as well on E. If you are on a different device, maybe I think the pause menu or clicking escape, usually in your device as well, will net that. And once you open your inventory, you have everything at your disposal. So maybe we can take a look or think back to our portfolio and some of the ways that we learned about farms. Remember those hints that I was telling? So we have a pretty good idea with hydroponics, maybe, that we want to do, or maybe making like a park and something a little bit natural. So this build challenge is up to you. What I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to take out my camera for now, and I'm going to move these books over to the end. So this challenge is now for you. I think we can give 15 to 20 minutes in order to give you all the time that you need. I'm going to go radio silent for this build. So we're all going to build together, and we'd love to hear from you, what you're thinking about building, what was your favorite moment along our journey through the rifts and through learning about climate change. And let's get right into it. So I'm going to go radio silent. This is our build challenge. Let's do something awesome and creative.
Damien, this has been amazing watching you with this build. We are almost out of time. I am just really floored at how you brought this to life. So at this time, we are going to, it's almost that time, students. We are going to go ahead and start wrapping up our build.
Yeah, and definitely take a minute or two, maybe place down your final blocks. I know that's a very popular saying. It always has been over here. Just one more block, right? So take a couple more seconds to do that. Kind of what I tried to build is the hydroponic farm over here. So I used this mossy cobblestone because I just felt over time, it's and if it's weather, it'll get a little bit mossy there. But what I tried to do here was I put these hoppers, and the idea is that it collects rainwater and then kind of filters it down to the to the farm over here, so it kind of irrigates itself, right? Because we talked about irrigation. And then I put a waterfall. I had a different idea. It didn't really work out. I think it flooded one of my potatoes. That's okay. And so with that, I have these little lanterns here as well. That's my best interpretation of like when you need sunlight during nighttime and things like that. So we have our daylight sensors or our solar panels to power that. We have some bees over here having a jolly good time to help pollinate and create future crops, and then also some livestock here. So if you have done something completely different, I'm sure you built something that's just, if not better and more wonderful than what I have. And ultimately, as long as you have fun and learned these new ways that we can improve our footprint and reduce climate change.
So yes, students, thank you so much for this awesome session today. I cannot believe that we are out of time. Please share in the forum what you created today. We want to see how amazing you were able to create a farm area on top of the hospital, so that you could do that. That is absolutely amazing. And so as we continue, as we bring this to a close, what is the one new thing that you learned today? Please share that in the forum. Also share what you were able to build or create today. Share that in the forum, and we're definitely going to go back and look at that. We can't wait to be able to see all of the amazing things that you were able to do and create, all in Minecraft. Also, just think about this, and we probably won't have time to get to this, but what could you do locally to help solve some of these problems of mass farming and its impact on climate? You experienced that today when you went through the Climate Futures lesson. So you can share that in the forum, and we can look at that later on. But in the meantime, we want to thank you, Dr. Rosie, and the Met Office, and everyone at Minecraft Education Edition for sharing this amazing Climate Futures lesson with us so that we could bring it to you today, so that we can learn how we can be more environmentally friendly and helping out the environment. And so at this time, students, wherever you are in your classrooms, if you can connect with your teachers to get your next steps, we would love that. Your teacher will share what needs to happen now. You all have been amazing, and we look forward to seeing you at the next Cobblestone Collective co-taught lesson.